It's great to see everyone here tonight to celebrate a lovely lady named Lara, Lamar, Mary, just maybe Angelique. I'm Jim Pearson, and it was my joy and privilege to know Lara for the last 4 decades, and we're so happy to put this together to share all of the love we have for her. All of you, whether you were friends, family, or fans, Lara embraced and was just so generous with her spirit. And she, I think, definitely one of the most adventurous women I've ever known. She seemed to be just fearless, and she had this great appetite to learn, and her passions from nature and animals and art and writing, teaching, acting. And I think one of my favorite times was being able to engage with her love of writing and work with her on the novels on Dark Shadows. And I'll never forget going to Boston. She wanted to research. Lara wanted everything to be authentic, you know, and she was just, she just went in completely, immersed herself in whatever she was doing. And going to Boston in the middle of winter and freezing up there, and going to a witches' coven meeting on a Saturday night, and they were good witches, so it was all on the up and up. Lara came to the conventions, East Coast, West Coast, for the last 40 years. She was a regular on the cruises. The last few years, there were a number of cruises for the Dark Shadows fans. She went to England to be part of the Johnny Depp Shadows, and she just was really so amazing. But above all else, she was a friend to all of us, and I'd like to introduce you tonight to many folks who have also much love to share. But I want to start off with a great colleague, a dear friend for many years, and he's a musical fella. It's Jim Storm, and he's going to get us started on a musical note and sing one of Lara's favorite songs.
This thing's got a lot of funny little lights on it. It's kind of fun, you know. Oh, yeah. Thank you. Okay, I first started in Dark Shadows, and I was playing the guitar, and I was learning this finger style picking. It's called 3-finger picking. It comes off the Delta, Mississippi, and all of that. And there's a guy named Mississippi John Hurt that he was an idol to me. He was a wonderful player. And I would sit in the dressing room, and I had this was at that time a new guitar, and I was playing it one day, and I was just kind of trying to figure out the picking, trying to figure out the playing. And one day I was just sitting there, and I was, you know, singing it, and I looked up, and here is this incredible looking woman in a dressing gown, hair stacked up on top of her head, and the most compelling eyes that I've ever seen in my life. It's just absolutely beautiful. And she was leaning there, and she said, well, my name's Lara Parker. And I said, well, it's very nice to meet you. And we started talking. She said, I come from the South, and I've been listening to you play, and I really am attracted to that sound. It's really a wonderful sound, and I love that kind of music, the country and folk stuff. And I said, well, the song I'm working on is it's a children's song. And it takes place in Chicago, turn of the century, the 19th century, 20th century. And it's called Red Light, Green Light, and it's a song to warn the kids would sing it on the street to warn the hookers that the cops were in town. Yeah, but she liked it a lot. And then through the years, we became pretty good friends. And I'd come to her home, and we did scenes together, and we talked a lot. And she listened. She listened to you, and she would be very inquisitive, and it was authentic, and it was just a conversationalist that was just really a lovely, lovely person. Beautiful actress, but just all in down, and just a lovely lady, and we miss her. We just miss her. And anyway, let me sing the song. This is one of hers. She liked it. Can you hear it?
Yes.
Red light, green light around the town. Despite a penny on the ground. Met a friend I'd never know, walking down on Rocky Road. Red, green, Rocky Road. Promenading green, tell me what do you see? Tell me who do you love? Took a mountain soda cracker. Does your mama, she chaw tobacco? Baby, your mama, she chaw tobacco. Booker took a mountain soda cracker. Red, green, Rocky Road. Promenading green, tell me what do you see? Tell me who do you love? See that bird up in the sky, he don't run, he just flying, it's green on Rocky Road. Promenading green, tell me what do you see? Tell me who do you love?
This is the way I will keep you here, Barnabas.
What are you doing with Sarah's doll?
Do you remember when Sarah was very ill? She had a terrible pain here in her shoulder.
Stop it, Angelique!
And another one here in her chest.
Give me that doll!
Stay away from me. This pin is aimed at her heart if you come any closer.
Please, Angelique. I'll do anything you want me to do, but please remove those pins.
No. See, I don't believe you anymore.
I promise you, I will not leave Collinwood.
Oh, you would leave immediately if you had no reason to stay here. And I am making certain that you have that reason.
I'm telling you, Angelique, if you do anything to harm Sarah, I'll...
You do nothing. As long as she is on the brink of death.
Brink of death?
She will not die. Unless you deceive me again. But she will come close. Very close. Do the job well enough, Barnabas. I am not dead yet. And while I can still breathe, I will have my revenge. I set a curse on you, Barnabas Collins. You wanted your Josette so much, well, you shall have her. But not in the way that you would have chosen. You will never rest, Barnabas. And you will never be able to love anyone. For whoever loves you will die. That is my curse. And you will live with it through all eternity.
And what you're actually doing is setting the camera motor on, and you can just take pictures of yourself. That's right. You just push this button. And as far as the sound is concerned, this sound is recorded on this microphone.
Oh, I see.
Right here.
Does it have a zoom?
Yes. Now, I'll show you how to operate the zoom. Now, you just twist this like so, and your subject will come closer and closer and closer.
Yeah, I see.
Now, you want to try the zoom now?
Yeah.
Okay, let's zoom right across the room, right over there.
Okay.
And you see
I'll take that man's picture
gentleman
right
over there?
Uh-huh.
You're getting him right in the picture.
Uh-huh. Oh, but it's all out of focus now.
Well, we'll fix that.
Oh, I see.
You get sound just like Hollywood.
How's the dragon lady?
I sent Dusty to cover my appointments. I just wanted to tell you, Harry. I'm sorry.
Everybody misses.
Not professionals.
We're professionals, too. Quarterbacks get knocked down, nurses get knocked up. Somebody invented the edge, so everybody misses.
Could you care for something to drink?
No, just a check. Must have scared hell out of you. Look, some night let's have dinner.
What are we going to talk about?
Business.
Yours or mine?
They both sell the same thing.
What's that?
Imagination.
Yeah, that's what they buy. Trick or treat. It's always Halloween, isn't it?
Every day.
I just wanted to tell you, Harry, that I'm sorry.
Let's have dinner.
Some night we'll have dinner.
I mean that.
Okay.
Alice? What? Alice, look what was stuck to the back window.
Worn, silent. What's a rune?
Witchcraft. It's some kind of message. I don't know what this is, though.
Looks like some kind of hieroglyphics or something. What's the matter?
I don't like it here. I don't like any of this.
Extra point got you, Frank.
Hello, honey. I just... Hey, what's the matter?
Huh? What's wrong, Kelly?
Roger, let's go home.
Oh, now, come on.
I want to go home, really. All those people out there.
Whoa, we're just in a recreational vehicle park. There's bound to be a lot of people.
I'm just getting the creeps.
Hey, Wanda, come on in here.
Listen, he doesn't know how lucky he is.
My name may be on the door, but I think you two better meet the real boss around here. Jenny Jameson, Roger Castle, Wanda Elliott.
Hi. Hello.
Jenny's coming to work for us.
Oh, really? I just hope I can do the job. Do the job? Are you kidding? In a week, you'll probably be running the whole department.
I thought you said we were going to have fun. So far, all we get is room service.
Look, it's not my fault. It's just a lot of people around here know me.
And you can't be seen with a strange woman, right?
All right. Well, at least you're having a good time. You are having a good time, aren't you?
I was. Hey, listen, I've got an idea.
What?
Why don't we go out for dinner? I hear the floor show's terrific. Ah, come on, you could just say that we bumped into each other. They put us at the same table.
No.
Okay. So, what do we do for the rest of the afternoon? Just sit around the apartment? That's really exciting.
Hey, come on, Kat. Why don't you go back to the beach? I really don't care.
Yes, you do.
I'm sorry, you want a drink?
Listen, Hank. Last night...
I don't want to talk about last night.
Okay, whatever you say. Listen, everything's going to be fine. We're going to do whatever you want. And a little later, after it gets dark... Hey, whatever you want.
Okay.
And we really are going to have a good time.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean a really good time. Yes?
Wanda Elliott? I'm Joe Wisnowski of the Washington...
I know who you are.
I'd like to ask you a few questions, if you wouldn't mind.
Questions about what?
Could you let me in, maybe, and I'll tell you?
Oh, excuse the mess. I wasn't expecting company.
And if you were expecting company?
Wouldn't look much different. Well, look, I won't have any answers for you, but, go ahead.
Well, there are a lot of ugly stories going around about what's happening at the Presidential Re-Election Committee. And I'm trying to find out which of these stories are true.
What you think I'd know?
I'm just hoping. I'm going from house to house, person to person, beating the bushes, and hoping that somebody at the PRC does know.
And if they did, what makes you think they tell you?
Because it's important. Well, I know it's important because everyone's been slamming the door in my face.
Could anybody have seen you come here?
No.
Oh, I shouldn't talk to you. I really shouldn't. What have you heard?
That a lot of people at the PRC are playing dirty, dirty pool. Everything from stink bombs to forged letters. There's a lot of money floating around.
Oh, yeah.
How much?
You don't quote me. You don't mention my name. In fact, you don't even know me.
I promise.
Battle ribbons in our K envelopes. Your first major? Not exactly, but it may be my last.
Oh, wonderful texture, beautiful sheen, so sleek, so touchable.
Watch it, Buster. Easy, honey. The buyer's always right.
Just testing your material, love. After all, if I'm going to buy, I have to know what I'm buying, don't I?
This is what you're buying. And you're buying a short career.
Oh, ladies, lovely ladies. If it were up to me, I'd take you all back to Birmingham and introduce you to the Queen Mum herself.
Oh, you chaps from England. You're all so friendly.
Oh, Sam St. Cloud, my dear, eh? Marks and Spencer. Do look me up the next time you're on the aisle, eh?
Oh, sure.
Yes.
You're not forgetting me, are you?
Outdoors since the room is warmed, eh?
So, Sam, your own line of dresses. How exciting.
You should have seen us 30 years ago. Pleats. What we did with pleats.
Yes, who could forget? Tell me, Leela, what would you say to a management position in my new enterprise, eh? Not just another model on the line, mind you, but the model. Above the line. Time off your feet. People working for you.
Oh, where do I sign?
Well, Leela, as it happens, you already have.
Oh, I don't think I understand.
I'm not sure who you're working for, Lara, but you may be in deeper than you think. At the moment, the authorities will show some leniency.
Leniency? For what?
Why not start with Mark Prine's murder, then work our way back from there, eh?
Mark? Murdered? You're lying. You're just trying to shake me.
Believe me, Lara. Then perhaps I'll be able to believe you.
Oh, you got the fish on board here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Let her rip. Wow, that's better.
What are you smiling about?
A smiley at you.
Oh, I'm a mess.
You certainly are. A beautiful mess.
You know, the first sign of old age is failing eyesight.
I've got it. It's a well-known fact that love is blind. I suppose you think I'm rushing on you. Love is a beautiful word, and that's exactly what I'm feeling.
I can't seem to act my age. It's a good thing I'm sitting down right now, because if I wasn't and you touched me, I'd swoon.
That's exactly what I'm going to do.
There isn't a sane, sensible thought in my head.
Boy, this is worse than the backseat of a 1950 Chevy.
Wait a minute, I've got one. I've got one.
Hey!
Oh!
Well, that's a big one. You better let me handle it.
No, you're right. This is mine. You get away.
Reel him in. Here's a beauty. That's a beauty. That's not a fish, that's a whale. That's a leopard seal. That's a minnow.
Oh, dear.
It's our first fish together.
Now we'd like to hear from Roy Isbell.
Hello. Hello. My name is Roy Isbell, and I was honored to be asked if I might have a few words to say here about Lara. And she was one of the most beautiful women in the world, and an accomplished actress and author. I couldn't pass up this opportunity to tell what she meant to me. I met her for the first time in 1986 at one of the festivals after I had followed her career for almost 20 years. I remember the first time they killed her character off on the show. We saw it a minute ago, and I was shocked for a minute, and then I realized, no, they've got to bring her back. And because she was so popular, and they did. They brought her back time and time again on the show. And I remember about 6 months after that, it was, I believe, in the fall of 1968, I was surprised to see her on the covers of 3 magazines on the newsstand, 3 different magazines. She was very, very popular. Anyway, about 10 years after I met her in New York, I had critiqued something she had written, and she contacted me out of the blue and said that she was prompted to ask if I would look over a novel she was writing. Well, I couldn't pass up that. I had to do what she asked. And that began a long 20 years or more of me looking over her work. And I don't know why she picked me, because I was just a fan. But evidently something I said was cogent enough to intrigue her. She thought that maybe I could give her some tips. I don't know. She had come at the show as just another role, which she moved away from, and now she was coming back to it. And whereas I had always stayed with Dark Shadows, I had an older brother that died when I was small. And so maybe I always had one foot in this world and one in the next. I don't know. At least I was always interested in the esoteric. But I think she wanted a broader feedback from me on the plot and overall character development, the concept and motivation. She kept saying she couldn't get inside Barnabas's motivation. She couldn't get inside his head. And I had a creative writing picture that said she didn't believe in getting inside the character's head. She wanted everything to look cinematically and like a movie. And the only character motivation coming out in a little bit of the dialogue, just the bare minimum. So I remember I was basically concentrated though on the minuscule clerical matters and the typos. My main point was that anything that makes a reader stumble over something, it takes them out of the story and breaks the spell. And she didn't really care about the typos, but I did. And I cleaned up all of those things. I remember telling her, you don't want to frustrate your publisher so that he throws the manuscript at the wall. And she repeated that back to me very slowly and said, like it was the most ridiculous thing. She said, nobody is going to throw my manuscript at this wall. But anyway, and Laura and I did butt heads a few times about certain things, but she was always charming and kind, and she always got her way and did it her way, and it did turn out wonderful. All of it did. Once in a while, she would flash some emotion reminiscent of Angelique or something that just made me, it was hilarious, and I just laughed. And then she would say, "I am not like Angelique, I'm not." And I was like, yeah, okay. Over the years, my wife and I went on several of the Dark Shadows cruises, and we went to the conventions maybe every other year. If it wasn't her that would go with me, it would be my brother. And sometimes I would go to the book signings, and with Lara and Catherine both. And I had a twin brother he's kind of a comedian, and I would sort of just fall into the trap of being his straight man. And I knew how to set up jokes. And for some reason, I would fall into that same pattern with her. And it was amazing. With just completely out of the blue, I could tell she was wanting to say something funny. She would start to tell a little story. And this happened around different people, just unusual situations at some of the conventions. And she would start to set up a joke, and I would play the straight man for her and say something and bring it out, and she would come out with the most hilarious punchline, just spontaneously and completely unrehearsed. As she grew as a writer, she experimented with different styles for her novels, and all four were very different. She said one time to me that she was proudest of the Salem branch because it turned out the most like she wanted it, and it was very smoothly written. I still have a draft of one unfinished chapter that she sent me to read so that we could discuss it afterward. After we talked, she rewrote it from the beginning, and I was kind of sad because it lost a certain freshness that the first one had, but the story did have to go that way, and it worked. But I've always thought it was so different before, and I really liked that. But she was always thrilling. I can't overemphasize how fun it was sharing her excitement when a story was coming together and evolving and everything. Now, I still have not read the published version of the last book, the fourth one, Heirs of Conwood. I went over several of the drafts, and I wanted to wait until I could read it with fresh eyes. It was a nightmarish episode, almost like an episode of The Twilight Zone or Night Gallery. I remember that. But last week, I remembered a scene from that book, and several of the characters were in a state of suspended animation or comas. And I was talking to somebody, and they reminded me there's a story in mythology, and I don't remember if it's Greek or Roman or what, but it goes something like, we are enacting the dreams of the gods and goddesses as they sleep. I can't remember which story that is, but I remember that, and it was like a bolt of lightning, that she was alluding to that. And so I do look forward to rereading that book soon. I looked at my emails before I decided, to try to come up here and say something, which I'm not a public speaker. But I had somewhere between 700 and 1,700 emails from her, with her, to me. So many are carbon copies or just a quick PS, I'm sure. But there were so many of them, and I had such a joy rereading some of them. The last email I sent her was about 4 months before she died. And I was telling her about something that happened to me about 2 years ago. And we had discussed it back then, about a year before she died. I had had a heart issue, and I'd had an out-of-body experience. And it was, I debated whether to even mention this, but it was a wonderful experience. It was beautiful, and I was there like 30 minutes gone. In reality, I think it was only 15, but everybody I talked to and all the conversations I had up to there, it had to be 30 minutes. And then at the very last minute, I looked down and I saw the paramedics working on my body. And I looked from the neck down, I could see that I was wearing the same clothes. And I remember that morning picking out that different outfit, which was real unusual for me. And, but anyway, I told Laura all about this and gave her all the details. she asked, did it seem real? And strangely, it was more real than this. This seems to me like we are swimming in a little bit of molasses. There's something a little bit different. It was a beautiful experience, and it was colors I had never seen before. It's just hard to describe. Everybody was so nice and loving. I did not see my family. They told me everybody would be coming in 90 seconds. Everybody that needed to come. And I was counting down in the back of my mind. And darned if those paramedics didn't wake me up right before that happened. I did not want to come back. But I say all that to say that I know that she's in a better place. I know because I've seen it.
Now, please welcome Kathy Lee Scott.
Well, thank you, Roy. Laura and I had some really wonderful times with you and Debbie. Stuart Manning, our mutual friend, suggested that Laura and I should interview each other. And of course, Laura was all for it, as you can imagine. And she said, "You mean I get to ask you anything at all?" And then we heard that wicked laugh. And you know that laugh. But all of us who knew and loved Laura know how much she loved to delve deeply into things and explore life's great issues and ask all of those questions that made you squirm, at least me. Anyway, I embrace the idea too, because we both realized that this was probably our last best opportunity to talk about what was a 56-year friendship. And it was significant for both of us, but professionally and personally. And this was our chance to do it. So I should tell you that we also agreed to record it. Two purpose-driven women who are both actresses and writers do not record. I met Laura on November 14th, 1967, on the second floor rehearsal room at old studio, ABC Studio 16. And, you know, I'm now watching Dark Shadows all over again. Episode by episode for the very first time. And about a week ago, we happened to watch that scene where Josette, the heiress, and Angelique, her lady's maid, appear for the first time. Dressed in 1795 frocks and babbling incoherent French at each other. But I have such incredible memories of that time. And what it does is remind me that it was Laura's contention that because we had first met as Angelique and Josette, that defined and characterized our entire relationship. And I totally disagreed. Deep thinker that I am, I said, no, that has absolutely to do with who we are and our backgrounds. I mean, could any two women be more different? I mean, the blonde and the brunette, she was a Scorpio, I'm an Aquarian. I'm a Northerner, she was a Southern belle. And as I reminded her, in real life, she was the heiress, she was the debutante, she was the one who went off to Vassar and had Jane Fonda as a roommate. Anyway, that, you know, one thing that really did bond us is that we both discovered that as 16-year-olds, we'd been accepted at Northwestern University in their Cherub program. And that was my fervent dream, that I would be able to go there for college. But I went there as a 16-year-old, and for both of us, that just altered our lives. And that is only one of the many, many, many things that Laura and I discussed during those 2 consecutive Sundays when I visited her beautiful home in Topanga Canyon. And I would arrive late in the morning, and I would leave at sunset, and during the day we just talked and talked, and we'd sit on that little Victorian settee in the living room, or out in that sun-baked garden with the yellow roses, and just talk about everything. And we did get around to discussing some of life's great issues, as Laura wanted to do, as among them, if you were a tree, what tree would you be? For the record, silver birch. Laura, native oak. But we also got into all of those gnarly things, you know, the stuff of a 56-year friendship. You know, the ups and the downs and the absolute bliss of knowing somebody so well. And then, well, it won't come as a surprise. It wasn't to me, but sitting there and speaking to Laura so intimately for those 2 days, I knew how much I loved this woman. So, on that last day, when I went to the door, and she would always want me to stay on for supper, and you know that Laura could talk well into the evening. But she gave me a tight hug, and she said, "Aren't we lucky? Acting and writing, that's what we wanted to do with our lives, and we did it." And then she said, "You know, I don't want to leave, but if I have to, I have no complaints. I've had this wonderful life and this wonderful family, and family meant everything to Lara." So I don't know that any of us can expect more of life than to find that much joy and fulfillment in one's life's work, and that much joy and happiness in one's family and friends. So I loved her, and I miss her.
Now please welcome, from Michigan, Lee Rosenblum.
My name is Lee. I am from Michigan. I was one of those kids in 1966. I was 11 years old. Saw commercials for this TV show called Dark Shadows. Was there that Monday that it premiered, and instantly fell in love with it. Those first 7 or 8 months without Barnabas didn't bore me or anything. I just thought it was the greatest thing. Had no idea the show was not doing so well in the ratings, and they tried a few supernatural things to perk up the ratings, and evidently nothing was working until they brought in Jonathan Frid. Then Dan thought, okay, let's show how he became a vampire. And I'm sure as all you know, they took the show into the past and used the same cast. But there was one role they had to find somebody new for. And thank goodness Dan Curtis did, and it turned out to be Lara. I watched the show from day one till the very end, and then like most of us, I thought we would just never see any of those people again, maybe on another show. And then some years later, started again in syndication, and I was just freaked out. I had never forgotten about the show or Lara. And I used to have a Betamax, and I would tape it every day when it came onto syndication and just watch it over and over and over. But But evidently the stations, from what I remember, only got like 160 episodes that they would show over and over again. And then it disappeared. I go, okay. And then, and Jim, you might know, correct me if I'm wrong, I guess PBS started to pick it up and more episodes came on. And then I had a horror magazine at home, some kind of monster magazine, could have been Famous Monsters or whatever. And in the back of it, it mentioned they had these Dark Shadows festivals in California. So I called up, I found the lady's phone number who ran them. Her name was Barbara. Called her up and we talked for like an hour or two. And I told her who my favorite character was. And she goes, okay, you know what, if you want to come to a festival, why don't you make a blooper reel for us, because we've never had that done before, and I'll introduce you to Laura. So luckily we had like 2 Betamaxes, I think you had to have 2 to make videos, I don't remember, but I made one of the first blooper reels that was shown at a festival. And I concentrated a little more on Laura than the other characters. And when they showed it, me and Laura were sitting next to each other, and I just really do remember her laughing quite a bit, so I felt okay about that. And then from what I remember, when Jim Pearson took them over, I started working with Jim at the festivals, which meant I got to work with Laura a bit more. And at the Marquis Marriott in Times Square, I think it was one of our largest crowds ever. And there was just, Laura had to go on stage, and then she was going back to her table to sign, and there was just too big of a crowd crowding her, and she felt uncomfortable. Jim Pearson saw that and said to me, Lee, from now on, all you do is take care of Laura. So for the next 20, 25 years, I was at her table, which a lot of you may have recognized me from there, helping her out as she would sign stuff, and I would sell the books and the pictures and whatever. And we got to know each other quite well, and it was just the best part of coming to these festivals. And after a while, she used to say to me, well, don't you want to go hang out with your friends? And I go, no, this is what I'd rather be doing. And sometimes, well actually most of the time, I think we were there longer than some of the actors, because Laura took her time in talking to everybody. It wasn't just, oh, what would you want on your autograph, next person, so on and so forth. We would just sit there, and it would take a while, but never bothered me, never got bored. We would have our talk times and everything, and we became great friends over the years. We used to call each other on our birthdays, and when I called her, my area code is 248, and I'm the only 248 on her phone, so whenever she picked up the phone, she would immediately start laughing, and that was really funny to me. But it was just the greatest thing. I mean, you know, when I was 11, 12, who thought you would become friends with a cast of your favorite TV show, let alone someone who you admired? And Laura, we just got along great. And I met a lot of good friends throughout the history of the festivals, especially her family, that I'm so glad you're all here today. It just means a lot. And I remember, Katie, when you were born, you used to come there as a little baby, and your mom came to Toledo to get you, and I live in Detroit. So I used to say, well, why don't you stop by and say hi to me? And it was just always a big joke. And my other favorite story is we had a festival at the World Trade Center, had a couple hours off. I went to Times Square to get pizza, and I told this story in Topanga, you might remember it. So instead of getting pizza, in the window there was salmon. I don't know why I ordered the salmon, but I did. Went back to work, sat next to Laura, because there's just a ton of people, and within minutes of me getting back to the table, I just got really, really sick. It was food poisoning. I was just freezing to death. I had the chills. There was a Gap store like in the same area that we were in. I excused myself. I went to the Gap, got the heaviest sweater I could find, put it on, and went back to work. Didn't say anything to Laura really, and finished out the day. The next day I told her what happened. she felt really bad that I shouldn't have gone back to work. But then she forgot every year after, and it was just a little joke between us. But yeah, I just had the best times with her at the festival. If I hadn't done that, I don't know that I would have gone to all the festivals every year, because I've seen all the videos, I've seen the actors, over and over again, and it was always a delight. But I went to these things for 41 years, I was told. I think Jim Pearson reminded me in California that the one I went to where I met Laura was 41 years ago. And I will just miss her forever and ever. I remember, like back in the day, the TV Guide booklet was like really small, and for the nighttime shows, the hour-long dramas, they would actually have the guest list. So whenever I got the TV Guide every week, I would honestly look for her name. Like the Remington Steele thing that they showed up, if you had the original TV Guide book, her name was in the book in the credits. So that's how I saw a lot of her TV roles. But yeah, I will miss her forever and ever. I'm glad you all came to this, especially the family, and just thank you.
Hello, my name is Krista, and and I just wanted to talk today in memory of Lara. I'd like to take a few minutes to share with you what she meant to me as a woman. I was 9 years old when I first saw Lara as Angelique on Dark Shadows. When I saw her for the first time, she took my breath away by her beauty. As David Selby once said, that she was stunningly beautiful. That day, I don't know which came first, being stunned or having my breath taken away, or both at the same time. I just knew she was the most beautiful woman I'd ever seen. And after more than 50 years later, she still is. Over the years, I have met so many other girls and women that she touched much in the same way, starting with her portrayal of Angelique. They too saw her as a role model in a similar fashion. I'm convinced that this is one of the key reasons why Lara's portrayal of Angelique became such a compelling main character that has transcended all expectations and endured to this day. A few years later, when I saw her again, I related to her how much she inspired me career-wise. She asked me, "But how could I have inspired you? You didn't become an actress." I replied that she was the one person who inspired a girl that was shy, introverted, and afraid to even raise her hand in a classroom. It was because of her that I had the courage to join the drama club, to audition and win parts in school plays. It was because of her I was actually able to get up in front of an audience to speak, as this was essential in the career paths I had chosen in politics and in the financial services industry. If it hadn't been for the inspiration that I gathered from her, I would never have gotten there. By the late 1990s, I found that Lara had reinvented herself as a woman in the publication of her first book, Angelique's Descent. To think that there was a book about my favorite fictional character and one written by the actress that played her was bliss. Thinking of her, my thoughts focused on the courage it must have taken her to pursue a new career path. This only brought back to me how special she was and how she, once again, inspired me when I was to change careers in my real life. During one convention in 2010, I told her that when I met my husband, I had been accepted into law school, but didn't go because I had fallen in love and gotten married instead. Encouraging me, she told me how she had gone back to school to earn a master's degree in creative writing when she was in her 60s, and that it was never too late to do the same. If and when I decide to pursue law, it will be because of her words, her encouragement, and her example. Finally, in July of 2023, that's just 3 short months before she was to leave our world, we discussed how women had been treated in the workplace over the years, the Me Too movement, and how it affected both of us in our own careers in dealing with sexual harassment and discrimination. She then shared with me her intent to write a new book that would not be about Dark Shadows, but about what it was like to work in the entertainment industry as a woman. These stories within would be real, but told as fiction. Elated, I told her that it was the exact book I had hoped she would someday write, and that to share her experiences would be such a valuable insight for other women. She told me she had already picked out a photo for the cover. To illustrate, she drew a picture for me to show what she had in mind. It was clear that she had plotted out the strategy for the book, having already calculated approximately how many pages each story needed to be, given the anticipated length of such a book. I will never forget this conversation and the fact that she chose to share this with me. The promise of such a book written by her gave me hope that it would someday become a reality. However, time was short for her, and she had much to do. Lara didn't get up in the morning on her way to the studio where Dark Shadows was being filmed to intentionally inspire girls, women, or anyone. She didn't think about how having this one pivotal role in her life would impact so many others. Instead, she was caught up with learning her lines, blocking her marks so she would be on camera, running lines with fellow actors, hair and makeup, and a final dress rehearsal before going on air, and hoping against hope that all would go successfully. Then, at the end of the day, she would rush home to her family or to yet another rehearsal or other project that she was working on. After all, Lara was just going about living her own life on her own terms. You see, Lara had no idea that her portrayal of Angelique, or who she was as Lara Parker, would be of any deep meaning to others. There was no intentional motivation or conscious decision involved. The lasting impact she had on so many came from Lara just being Lara. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Alexis Knicker, and in memory of Lara today, I'm going to be reading from Bugs and Critters, which is a children's book that is a collection of poems written by her mother and illustrated by her aunt, and the audio was done by her. It was an important book to her, and it's an important book to me. Growing up, it was the book that got me into poetry, and some of you out there may remember a small little girl running around with a shirt that said, "Ask me about bugs and critters." So I will be reading the poem titled "The Mayfly." A mayfly, you've guessed it, is born in May. But did you know she lives only one day? When she opens her eyes to the morning sun, her first and her last day have begun. One morning a mayfly was drying her wings on a stalk that held two other new things. One was a stink bug of mean disposition, the other an ant, a young politician. The ant said, "Now that your wings are unfurled, welcome, sweet mayfly, to the world. And let me please be the first to say, in all sincerity, have a nice day." The stink bug was filled with a bitter self-pity and madly jealous of anything pretty. She made a remark that would cut like a knife. "It's the very last day of the rest of your life." The mayfly shrugged. It was best to forgive it. Whatever her time, she was now off to live it. She only returned when the sun was sinking. The ant was washing, the stink bug stinking. The ant said, "Hello, and hip hip hooray. Well, let me tell you about my day. There were so many tasks that I just stopped counting. I dug a subway and moved a mountain, stayed busier far than the busiest bee, and all for the good of the colony. I've touched antennas with most every member and asked them to vote for me come November. I took not 1 minute to stop and play, but says the stink bug, how was your day? The stink bug was sunk in a deep purple funk. Well, most of the time, I just sat here and stunk. Well, it takes all kinds, said the ant. And so, tell us, sweet mayfly, how did it go? I'm sure, Mr. Ant, you will think me a shirk, 'cause I didn't do one solid lick of work. For all of us born on this date in May decided we'd dance the day away. And over a meadow full of flowers, we twirled and spiraled for hours and hours. Up we'd swirl, around and around, and when we got tired, we'd kind of float down. Miss Stinkbug will judge that my time was wasted, but most of the sweets of life I've tasted. I watched a rabbit lining her nest, saw a fox on the run and a fawn at rest, got tossed around by a friendly breeze, and smelled the blooms of the apricot trees. Then I paused to leave my eggs behind, ensuring the future of mayfly kind. I've basked in the sun and bathed in the rain, but I've broken no promises, caused no pain, made no enemies, left no debts, so all in all, I have no regrets. The ant replied, "You're uncivilized, but I doubt your day should be criticized, for those whose lives are transitory are touched with a special kind of glory. Now the sun has set, the moon's on the rise, the time has come for our last goodbyes." The stink bug then, to her utter surprise, suddenly found she had tears in her eyes. Thank you.
Now please welcome Ansel Farage.
I don't have any hair left, but I was not one of the kids that ran home from school to see Dark Shadows. I was I'm sorry, I'll speak with my director voice, alright. I was a kid in the 90s, and VHS was around at the time, so my first experience with Lara was Night of Dark Shadows on videotape. And it's a bit slow, as I see, some of you like to comment on Facebook about, but it's going on, and then suddenly the music gets a bit spooky, and Lara appears down this hallway, this blue phantom, scared the crap out of me. And for years I was convinced, oh my god, one day Angelique is going to come down. Plus we moved right after I saw that tape, so I was also convinced the house we moved into was haunted, and Angelique was going to come and get me. And then, so I was about 6, and 14 years later, Angelique did walk down the hallway to my bedroom to sign my Night of Dark Shadows poster at our cast table reading of Dr. Mobuza, which is the first film I did with her. So anyway, I remember the first time I met Lara was just before the Tim Burton Dark Shadows movie opened. Catherine was helping me persuade Lara to join the cast of our film Dr. Mobuza, and they were signing books, and she said, "Lara, this is our director." And Lara just looked at me with those luminous eyes that she had and just judged me silently. And I'm 20. So she didn't say much, but there was that twinkle in her eye that I'm sure most of you are familiar with. And we had a few moments then alone, again, thanks to Catherine. And Lara goes, "Do you have lights?" And I'm like, yeah, we do. And I got home like, "Mom, Dad, we gotta buy lights right now." And I honestly didn't know if she would do the movie. She never really said yes or no when I was trying to persuade her. But then she showed up for our table read and critiqued my grammar, as she should have. And she was warm, she was funny, she was motherly. She put me at ease. And once filming began, we had several long discussions just about writing and acting and filming. As a matter of fact, there was a day, again, Catherine and Lara were both there. They played these witchy sisters, it was appropriate. And we were in between takes, and so Catherine was in my house, and we were shooting in my garage. It was this 8x8 little thing in the middle of June. And she says, "Catherine's in there, just let her sit. I want to talk to you, you sit down." And so she grilled me on filmmaking and writing. We had a great time. And then we came in, and I remember Catherine said, "So how did it go?" And Lara goes, "Well, he's a tyrannical director. He made me do take after take after take," which never happened. She was just talking to me the whole time. And, she was incredibly patient and kind with me, and so funny, wickedly funny. There's stories I wish I could tell that are just so funny. She was genuinely interested in people, and while she was a teacher, I think she was truly an eternal student of life. She was always inquisitive, she was always absorbing. She was not Angelique. She was funny, she was sharp, she did not put on airs, she was real, she was genuine, I think as most of you can attest. And we drove down to Comic-Con together the following summer to promote the second Dr. Mabuse film, and she told me she was working on, she told me about working with Brian De Palma, and she told me what Darren McGavin was like, and all these crazy Hollywood stories, and you know, she's working on a fourth Dark Shadows novel, so I was giving her all these ideas for the heiress of Collinwood. And one of my favorite memories was sitting in her house in Topanga. We came up, and I had convinced Darren Gross and her, let's get together, and I want to see Night of Dark Shadows deleted footage. So we watched it in her bedroom, and Darren and I were both asking her, you know, how did they do the ghost? How did they do this? And she said, I don't remember. I was just hanging out. Like, what did I care? And then, you know, she said, Chris Pennick, you know, is in the film, and we do miss Chris as well. But they have a scene together, and we asked about Chris, and she goes, wait, what? I was married to Chris? I had no recollection, but it was just fun. You know, here I am, talking to Lara, seeing this stuff, and again, she was real. She's like, sit on my bed. Here, this is my bed. And I'm 20. So, and I'd call her, and she used to say, well, we have nothing to talk about. And we'd be on the phone for hours. One time we were on for 3.5 hours, and we'd launch, you know, one thing after another. We'd launch about politics and the state of the world and art and, you know, trips to Europe and all kinds of things. And I remember we did a short film for the 50th anniversary. It's called The Job Interview, and it had John Carlin and Chris and Catherine and Lara were all in it. And thank you. And the raunchy banter that came out. John Carlin would start things, but then Lara would right on top of it. And then you got Chris Pennick there, so it's really, you know, it's really crazy. And I just sit there and I just listen at them, and they crack each other up, they crack me up, and it was amazing. I hate sounding, I don't mean to be like an egotist. This is just, I'm speaking as what I got to experience with Lara and all these funny, weird memories that I was lucky to experience. I remember when we did, again, Dr. Mabuse, Jerry Lacey played Dr. Mabuse, and there's a scene where she had to laugh, and so she just let out that Angelique laugh, and Jerry goes, boy, you just turn it on like a faucet. And she just winked, and then she had to lay out tarot cards, and she goes, well, how do you want me to lay these out? Because there's several ways to deal with tarot cards. You want this reading, or that reading, or that? And I remember, this is a good one, at a Dark Shadows festival. Again, you guys, I'm 20. Like, I can't even drink. She turns to me and she goes, oh, I'm exhausted. Take me to bed. And I just look at her and I'm like, Laura, I think you got to rethink that statement. She just looks at me and she goes, and then she giggled. So the last time I saw her was just this. I'm getting emotional. The last time I saw her was just this past summer. We filmed a sequence for my new film, The Great Nick Deep, and she was frail, but the acting rejuvenated her. She was just alive, and had it just something blossomed inside when the camera came on, and she was so excited and filled with life and excitement, and she loved what had been written, and she was grateful it wasn't some Shakespearean hocus pocus like I'd given her in the past, that it was real dialogue. She still critiqued it. she still was asking my buddy Nate Milson, some of you might know who he is, she's like, what's the through line? Because I read this before, did you get it? And, you know, the writer in her, the teacher in her, and that was great, you know, she was Lara, you know. I wish she could have seen it, but, you know, we shot 3 months before she passed, but we did have many lights. So, you know, thank you, Lara, for saying yes to me so many years ago. You know, thank you even before then for entertaining and bewitching so many of us. Thank you for teaching me proper story structure and that a character always has to have a want in any story, that mood and atmosphere are just not enough. Thank you for becoming part of my weird, crazy, extended family that I'm so grateful I've gotten to know and to work with time and again. You were beautiful inside and out. We all miss you and love you. And lastly, I have to say, all of them, Catherine, Jerry, David, Jim, John Carlin, Chris Pennick, Lara, Lisa, all of you, you are a family. This show is about family. It's always been about family. And I think it's lasted this long because these people, they are family. And I'm just some lucky kid that got to see it from a very small little corner, and I'm grateful for it, and I'm grateful that I've have them in my life. So, you know, thank you.
Lovely Lisa Richards.
So I'm so happy that I was able to come here because I was out of town when you had the Topanga Remembrance. So I'm glad that I can be here tonight. Lara was just a lovely person. That's who she was. She was a wonderful actress. We studied with the same teachers. We worked very hard. And even though I grew away from Dark Shadows in a way, and my very good friends were Chris Pennick and I'm forgetting names, Mitch Ryan, and you know, but Lara always remained in my heart. And I'm so happy to hear that she inspired so many people to do what they want to do in this life, to be artists, to be parents, to have loves, to follow their dreams. And for that, Lara, thank you very much.
Now please welcome David Selby.
Many years ago, I didn't even know how to say hello, really, to Lara. I was, I won't say intimidated, but I was just taken. And I knew her as Angelique. So, all those years ago, I wrote a piece called Angelique. It's going to take some time
to get you out of my mind. So gorgeous you are. The brightest star. I've loved you from afar. It never felt naughty, admiring your perfect body. So easy on the eye. The heavens sighed. Oh my. Oh my. And so did I. So did I. Gazing upon your beautiful face, my heart begins to race. Your beauty so unique, my Angelique, dear Angelique. You meant a lot to me, but it was never to be. Cross my heart, hope to die, I cannot lie. Only bemoan my fate to live alone. The lonely road is far too long for the same old song. It's going to take some time to get you out of my mind. So gorgeous you are. The brightest star. I loved you from afar. It never felt naughty, admiring your perfect body. So easy on the eye, the heavens sighed, oh my, and so did I, so did I. We were both too hard to please, would never beg on bended knees. Buried in solitude, under a mountain of attitude, we never tired of playing double dare. Still, I watched your golden hair fall down across your breasts. As to all the rest, we could never reconcile, always in denial. Why couldn't we have fun? I was so undone. When I saw you, nothing I could do. The attraction was mine, and you never knew. You never knew. And that is fine. No matter how we fought, you gave as good as you got. And I owe you a lot. My soul was yours to save. You kept me from an early grave. It will take some time to get you out of my mind. So gorgeous you are, the brightest star. I loved you from afar. It never felt naughty, admiring your perfect body. So easy on the eye, the heavens sighed, oh my, and so did I. So did I. Dear Angelique, my Angelique, you were so oblique, my heart skipped a beat. Come to the window, sweet is the night air. All was fair and square under the moon, my head in a swoon. Your love I could never tether. We were never meant to lie down together. Love is fragile, not a game. Your love never tamed. I know I was wrong. Can't make amends in a song. Your order tall. You wanted all. A shadow on my wall. I would have risked it all for a love unfed makes a lonely bed. We could never last. Consider our past. One lie, love would be dead. Love's heart is a minefield. Love's romantic shield is truth bared instead. It will take some time to get you out of my mind. So gorgeous you are, the brightest star. I loved you from afar. It never felt naughty, admiring your perfect body. So easy on the eye, the heaven sighed. Oh my, oh my, and so did I. So did I.
Now please welcome Janet Meehan.
Hello, everybody. The first thing I'd like to address is thank you all for coming. You guys are in my heart forever and ever. And I want to thank all of our wonderful co-stars from the Dark Devils for being here. I also want to thank Jim Pearson and MPI for helping to put this thing together tonight for all of the fans. First off, I'd like to ask a moment of silence, please, for the memories of both Lara and one of the members of our fans' side, okay, Miss Marcy Robin, who passed away approximately 2 months after Lara did. I'm not going to talk too long, but I will give you a brief history. My life as a fan basically started with Dark Shadows. In some ways, I was always a fan. It was the age, it was the era I lived in. And before Dark Shadows, it was the time of the beach party movies, Haley Mills, whatever was going on then. That was my era. That was when I was 11, 12 years old. I was 12 years old when President Kennedy was assassinated. I was really into rock and roll music during that time, as I'm sure a lot of other people were. But I tried to stay on a narrow path and not get into problems. Okay. But there came a time when I was starting to kind of lose an interest in the music. I was looking for something else. There were a lot of music programs on television, and I started watching this crazy soap opera. It wasn't Dark Shadows. It was the one that preceded it. I had been watching it for approximately a month, and then one day I tuned in and it was gone, and guess what was on? It was great. So it took a while to get into, but I stayed the long haul. And like everybody else, when it ended way too prematurely, I said, oh God, what am I going to do now? I love my Dark Shadows. But time goes on, you move on, and maybe 4 or 5 years after the fact of missing it, I started getting back to my artwork, which I was doing all the time when the show was on. I'd sit in front of the television and draw all the characters. I decided to contact Catherine, who was living in London at the time. I just sent her some silly cartoons and a letter saying hi. I've always been a fan. She was my original person on the show. My second was Jonathan. Lara was third. But the truth of the matter is, in thinking all this over the years, there isn't anybody who is indispensable on this show. All of these people mattered, they contributed greatly, and to this day, this is still the high spot of television for me. I will love this show till the day I die. As far as Lara goes, we lost touch for a while, but then I lost touch. I didn't go to too many conventions on the East Coast. I couldn't afford to. We bought a house and we had a lot of bills to pay. It was hard. But somewhere in the 2000s, we finally turned it around a little bit. And I started getting reconnected. I was late in finding out even that Lara had written books. They were on their second printing, at least 3 of them. Okay? But I got a hold of it. I got a hold of her. And I said, watch out, I'm going to write a review. Now, I had written to her before. I'd always written to her about her acting abilities. She never responded. It was always what you see in print. I'm not deserving. I'm not a movie star. You know, she did that so many times. And it used to frustrate me because my intentions were, are you kidding me? What a fabulous talent. But nothing I was going to be able to say to her was going to shake her. And I didn't see much point in trying to make her see it my way. She had her own point of view. So, the good side of this little story is, when I wrote the review, I got the fastest ever response from Lara Parker. I mean, 1 week. She was ecstatic. I was a little puzzled. Janet, she wrote, you got it. Got it, italicized, like very few did. And I'm going, what? What wasn't there to understand? I just didn't get it. But she insisted that was it. And then she really touched my heartstring. She finally, towards the bottom, she says, your review is very validating for me. Validation was a very key word for Lara Parker. And I'm grateful in some small way I was able to touch her heart. I will miss her dearly. I know we all will. But I want you to take hope and be inspired, because she will never die. She will never ever die in this world. Somewhere all around the world, her movies, her television shows are going to be playing. She's going to go on and on. New fans are going to rediscover her, and she will continue to grow. And Lara Parker, of course, and this is my intention, I don't believe in death. You simply transition. body may be in the ground, it may be cremated, but Lara Parker's spirit is still around. I'm not going to go into it now. If you wish to discuss anything with me later, I will be happy to talk about it. So I would like to end this by letting you guys know how appreciative I am that so many of you came to say goodbye to this great, great star in person. And I know you all love her. Send her your thoughts. If you're going to say prayers for her, say prayers for her. She doesn't need them. But according to many things I've read, they do like to hear things like that. Okay? So thank you so much. I'm sorry I took up so much of your time.
Please welcome Roger Davis.
Wow. A lot of people here. This is great. Now, look, everybody's talked a lot about Lamar. I'll get it together. Just takes a second. I came on Dark Shadows. This is, now guys, family's here. I looked around and just was nuts about Lara. I mean, we used to before we would go on and in the wings, hold hands. I heard David, and I'm sure from afar, I can completely understand, since I wasn't from afar. I miss her. I didn't get to have a last year with her. Who knows? But I'm here to tell you that she was the coolest, sexiest girl. So honest, straightforward. And in a time in my life when I had gone to my hometown and with an enormous hubris, I took all of my money and built a 21-story high-rise and a hotel. I'm reminded of this because I'm seeing this Kevin Costner. Saw this movie Alive, and I'm thinking, boy, I did the same damn thing. But I didn't realize that when you build a 21-story building, even if you put up the money, banks demand certain things from you, no matter what, because they're going to do the financing of the condos that you're building. And you're building 130 of them. And the bank is saying, you have to have this guy build it. Well, I didn't know exactly what that meant, because I'd always done my own thing. And I said, well, I can build this. I'll have my people come from California. But I lost everything. Now, the building is a huge success. Has the finest people in Louisville live there. The hotel is extremely successful. I got to run around and play host and CEO for 5 years. I'll never forget it. Metropolitan Life, who partnered with me, said, this guy in Atlanta said, after a year of trying to get the deal done for the hotel, it's 3 in the morning, and he had had at least a bottle of vodka, and he was starting on the second one. And he said, you know, how long have we been talking about this? And I said, over a year. And he said, well, I've got some good news and bad news for you. The good news is we're going to do the deal with you. We're going to give you this $27 million that you're talking about. And we'll probably wind up giving you more. Now, you want the bad news? And I said, sure. And he said, well, the bad news is that we're going to do it. We're going to do it with you. I said, wait a minute, that was the good news. Yeah, well, that's the bad news, too. And I said, I don't get it. Well, you will. You will, because you're just like all the young guys, and we're happy. We think this hotel is wonderful. Of course, it's not at 59th and 5th in New York City, which is where you should have it. It's here downtown Louisville, which is mostly empty. Now, one day a year at the Kentucky Derby, it's going to be full. But I don't know what's going to happen the rest of the year. Well, he said, you're going to come back in here 5 years from now and beg me to buy the hotel. I swear to you, 5 years, I was in his office begging him to buy the hotel. And I returned to California. I went to Santa Monica, had a drink at a bar that a friend of mine owned. And I called up Lamar and Jim. And I didn't know where to go or what to do. It had been 10 years since I really had been in the business. I'd been back playing real estate mogul. And Lamar, on the phone, just said, hey, come and stay with us. Wow. I cannot tell you what that meant to me. And Jim and Katie and Lamar were so kind. It was a nest, a home, and a place where I'd been and done a lot of things, but I wasn't exactly what I thought welcome at that point. And as things began to turn around, and that big ball started moving, and suddenly you're back in the swing of things. Suddenly you've got another line of credit, and these banks are trying to loan you money and all this kind of stuff. I still, the wonderful thing about, it's hard to just talk about Lamar now without talking about Jim. And I have a daughter that's the age of Katie, and I'm very, very proud to tell you all that in your life, most of the time, things started with an emotion, with a crush, so long ago, and then through your life, events happen that probably the single most important event in my life when I was at the lowest was Lara Parker, Lamar, and Jim, who literally took me in. And over the years after that, Lamar and I had conversations, and she was always so interested that I had this bounce back ability. And as I look now and think, I've had just how many people really affect you in your life, really make when things are really tough, they make a difference to you. I've never forgotten it. I've never, ever forgotten it. So, the side of, you've heard all of these sides of Lamar, but the side I give you is just personal and a great person. And as I say, sexiest, coolest girl that I ever met. And since I was married for a lot of years to Jacqueline Smith, I can tell you that when I say that, well, anyway. Isn't it great when you get it?
Now, please welcome back Jim Storm.
What a nice remembrance. Wonderful things, wonderful. I'd just like to say it's a wonderful thing that we've done. And she was an extraordinary lady. But also I would like to just kind of tip my hat to people who have in front of the camera and behind the camera who's no longer with us. I'd like to dedicate this song to them, and of course to Lara, of course. And also I'd like to just kind of say, I'd like to dedicate it to all of you, because I mean to tell you, I've seen commitment, and you people are just extraordinary. And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for what you've done over the 50 years. It took a while to get to really understand, you know, what you meant to me, and you really you mean a lot. And thank you so much. I had an opportunity. Oh God, look at that! And by the way, I don't know who did the photograph, and the one that was up there, it looked like a head, but boy, did that capture Lara. That was just a beautiful, beautiful photograph. Anyway, I spent a lot of time up in Pine Ridge and hung out with his family for quite some time. And I really grew to kind of love them. And I was leaving, and they were living in a trailer, and I was packing up, and I said, well, goodbye, you know. And they said, the lady came up to me and she said, in our culture, in our language, there is no word for goodbye. We don't have it. And we also don't have the word hate, which I thought was really interesting. But she said, what we do say is toksha ake, which means we'll see you soon, either in this world or the next. So I'd just like to say toksha ake to all of the people in the dark shadows, and please just open it up, let it go. It's may the circle be unbroken, and just please join in. I was standing at my window on a cold and cloudy day when I saw that first come rolling, oh, to take as a family away. May the circle be unbroken, oh, by and by, Lord, Lord, by and by. Let me hear ya. There's a better home away Chester's man, won't you please drive so low for the body we are holding overhead, not to see them go. Close behind him, hold my head up and be brave. I could not hide my sorrow when they laid Lara in the grave. Now go in the circle, come on, be unbroken, oh, by and by, Lord, Lord, by and by. There's a better home awaiting in the sky, Lord, in the sky, in the sky.
Thank you so much, Jim. And Jim will be back tomorrow to sing for those of you at the luncheon, but wanted to thank everyone for coming, and Lara fills our hearts, and I know it's running over. It was so great to see everyone here tonight. Last year, Lara was able to finish. She really was she was dedicated to her craft, and she wanted to finish the audio version of her last novel, and it was great that we were able to get that done. So that will be something you can hear in the coming months. And we do have Lara's novels outdoor to benefit out in the lobby. Peace for Kids, which was a cause that was near and dear to Lara's heart, and it's a program that uplifts and helps children at risk to get engaged and find purpose. And so if you'd like to enjoy one of Lara's novels, that's out front, and then you can mingle. And for those of you here tomorrow, we'll see you then. And thank you for celebrating the life of Lara Parker.